Hello, this is JW Greenbaum, welcoming you to a very special episode concerning another traveling knife. This one is on its very first owner, which is to say me. But of course, it's going to get passed around to multiple other channels. I have the full list so far, but the next channel is going to be RJ's Knives. So, before RJ can get his hands on it, though, I am going to do a brief overview of this knife, which is a Knipex. And yes, that is how you pronounce that word. I know we're probably used to saying Knipex by now, but it is Knipex. I actually checked on their website. 16, 20, 50 SB folding cutter. That's the official name. In actuality, what it is a slip joint knife. It's a very, very good one. A surprisingly good one, I may add. I'm just getting the oil off. Don't worry about that. It's got a bit of factory oil on it. So, obviously, this does not look like your typical knife. As a matter of fact, what this is a European electrician's knife. You see, when we think of an electrician's knife, chances are we think of something along the lines of the TL-29, or at least something like it. Perhaps branded with a major tool manufacturer like Klein Tools in particular, or Stanley. Stanley makes them to this day. But in Europe, they have a very, very different kind of electrician's knife, and this could be said to adequately represent that kind of electrician's knife. And also, I would say that this is an excellent quality example of one. So, let's get started. First off, we can see if we hold the tip very close to the camera, that there is actually, the grind does not go all the way to the end. As a matter of fact, watch this. I'm ever so slightly poking myself by doing this, but I'm not hurting myself. Again, the grind does not go all the way to the end. That's to avoid, if you're poking around a number of wires, trying to find the right one, well, obviously you're going to be poking into other wires. You don't want the tip of the knife to hit into the wire and thus potentially either score or even completely sever it. So there you go. That's the reason why it doesn't have a tip. The edge is well applied. It does indeed cut. And then there is this edge right there, which we will get back to. We have a sharpening choil, which is a dual-purpose choil. I'll get back to that. And we have this opening hole here, which is shaped a bit like the Knipex logo, you know, the diamond-shaped affair that they have, which again is a dual-purpose. It serves two purposes. Obviously, we have the tool brand right there, Knipex. We have a we have a lanyard loop, very, very large one, that is deliberately compatible with Knipex's tethers, because they have a number of tethered tools, and they probably figured, okay, well, if somebody's going to attach a lanyard, they may as well attach one of our lanyards, and that way, hey, we get to make more money. But I'm sure you can put any lanyard you want on this knife, and it'll function just fine. The handles are made of rubberized plastic. I would say that this blue area here provides a decent amount of traction, which is interesting because on this side, where you just have the red, you have significantly less traction. But yeah, if you're, bearing down on this thing, or alternately you're going like this, and you get your thumb here, well, yeah, you're going to be fine. You've got full steel liners right here. And we also have, and this is really interesting because it actually clues us in as to who actually manufactured this knife. This here that says made in Zollingen. Zollingen, of course, is in Germany. But if you are familiar with this font, this all lowercase Zollingen font with the little flare underneath the GEN that has a little kind of a blade shape right there. If you're familiar with that, you know that it is used regularly by Otter-Messer. So perhaps we have found our OEM for this knife. And by the way, you can do a lot worse. Otter-Messer is a very nice company, and they manufacture very good quality knives. This being no exception, if it is indeed manufactured by them. As a matter of fact, the slip joint on this, that's pretty good walk and talk. So you're probably going to ask, okay, well, it's good walk and talk, but what's the pull like? Well, I would say that this is a 7 pull. It is maybe on the light-ish side of 7, but it's still very much a 7. So this is something where I would say, okay, yeah, very, very nice slip joint mechanism. I am impressed. And they did put some work into this. Now, I'm not sure what the 16 and the 20 symbolize, but the 50 in Knipex 162050 SB symbolizes the sharpened blade length in millimeters. Because while the blade is from tip to ricasso pretty much a 1/16 of an inch over 3 inches, so yeah, you legal line people, yeah, you're probably going to want to look elsewhere. However, if you don't have a legal line, again, check this out. We are at exactly 50 millimeters. So there you go. That's why we have the 50. Because Knipex is often fond of putting the tool size into the names of their tools. Another thing about this knife is, well, obviously we have the edge, but we also have 3 features that have multiple uses. For instance, this here, the semicircular cutout, as you can see, that is in fact sharpened. So you may be figuring, okay, that's probably used to score wire and strip wire and probably even cut wire. Well, yes, it is. However, the wire that it is meant to strip, score, and cut is in fact not used in the United States. Now, granted, you can still score and strip hard wire and very large stranded wire with this cutter here, but yeah, the actual wire that is intended for this is found pretty much exclusively in Europe. Now, granted, some of these things that are sized for things like, well, I'll get to that later. But granted, you can still use this. It's not like you would have no. It's not like you would have no idea how to use, for instance. You could still score and then strip hard wire, particularly larger hard wire, using this. I don't see the problem of, trying to, get this, trying to get it off and then struggling. No. I imagine that there would be a larger gauge of wire that you could just, strip. So this also serves as, believe it or not, a pencil sharpener. So if you want to sharpen a pencil, let's say you're doing an electrical job, your pen stops working on you, or alternately you carry around a pencil and your pencil breaks, well, hey, you can sharpen a pencil pretty well on here. And I did indeed try that. It does indeed work. Obviously, I don't want to subject you to it, but since sharpening a pencil really does take me a little bit of a while, but yeah, you can sharpen a pencil on here. Now, the other two dual-purpose functions of this knife are the sharpening choil and the opening hole. The sharpening choil, which of course allows you to sharpen the blade, also serves as a wire bender for very small, very thin gauge stranded wire. I actually tested that out, and it does work. So there you go. I imagine that if you found very, very thin gauge copper or even steel wire, you could probably bend it using that as well, that same sharpening choil. But let's say you've got something a little bit larger. Let's say you've got a larger gauge of stranded wire, or a smaller gauge of hard wire. Well, you can use this as your wire bender. So you can just, twist it once the wire's in there, once it's been stripped, and hey, then you can find a screw to put it around, and you'll be good to go. I mean, the one thing that this lacks, by the way, that the TL29 style electrician knives that, please note that I say TL29 style because only the military issue ones are called TL29s. The one thing that this lacks, that the TL29 style has, is a screwdriver. This does not have a screwdriver integrated into it anywhere. I mean, if you were desperate, I'm sure that you would be able to use perhaps this area here, or maybe even this, but I really doubt it. I mean, chances are you're going to be carrying a devoted screwdriver anyway. That's what they expect you to be doing. So the other thing is that, fortunately, they weren't counting on a person having either very small or very large hands. This is sort of a one-size-fits-all knife. It's very ergonomic. It's very well designed. It is just something I think is going to be a very handy tool, whether you are an electrician or whether you simply have electrical wiring to maintain, as I do on my Lionel layout, where indeed I do have to make sure that all the wiring is, labeled, and let's just say, something gets pulled out, well, then I'm going to have to repair it and splice 2 pieces of wire. I could easily do that with this knife, which is, again, you can carry this as a pocket knife, or you can use it as an electrician's knife. It really is a wonderfully handy little tool. And the other thing is, I'm sure a lot of you knife folks are wondering what blade steel this is. Well, as it turns out, this is actually a fairly good form of a blade steel. Apparently, this is 140-34 stainless steel. Now, if you think that sounds familiar, you are probably correct, because Cold Steel uses the same steel on its budget line, calling it 4034 SS for stainless steel. So the answer is yes. 4034 is actually a pretty good steel. It's very similar in its quantities to 420HC. So no, this thing is not going to just dull out in 5 minutes. You can actually do some real cutting with this. This is not like 420J2. It is not like unnamed surgical steel. It's not like unnamed stainless steel. This is actually a decent steel that is used in real quality pocket knives. So one thing that I also would like to stress about this is that it's very, very affordable, especially given the craftsmanship that's been put into it. You can acquire one of these if you want one from KC Tool, which is the leading importer of German manufactured tools, and they're on sale. I don't know how long they're on sale for. It may just be a Columbus Day thing, but I'm going to post this video, and my hope is that you'll be able to get one for $19.99. That's an excellent price, especially given a slip joint with this kind of action. This is something that I would compare in value to the Rough Ryder range of slip joints, where it's got a lot of... clearly, they are doing something right. Clearly, this is something that has had workmanship put into it and a good deal of design experience put into it. It's something where you can either, again, use it as a pocket knife or use it as something where you can actually maintain electrical wires. And, if you're wearing a gloved hand, you're really going to have some nice traction over this. So, color me impressed by this. And, in fact, color me so impressed by this Knipex 16-20-50 that I bought a second one just so I would not have to give this knife away and then be without a second one that I couldn't enjoy for myself. It's that cool of a knife. I just had to go out and get that second knife. So what we are going to do here is I am going to get this packed up and sent to RJ's Knives, where he will hopefully do a review of it. And before I do that, though, I would like to do some size comparisons, more specifically 6 different size comparisons, including with the channel's 2 newest knives, but we're going to start out with the classics. First, the Ontario Knives Rat Model 1. As we can see here, it's in the same size class as the Rat Model 1, although has significantly less sharpened blade. Next is the Ontario Knives Rat Model 2. It's significantly larger than the Rat Model 2, but again has significantly shorter sharpened blade length. Still, if you're going to be working in gloves, I'd rather have the Knipex. Next, because it wouldn't be this channel without one, a Spyderco Paramilitary 2. And this knife is a bit more in the general size class concerning the handle and handle scales as the Knipex. It has considerably longer cutting edge, but there you go. Also, this is the CQI'd version with CPM S45VN steel, just in case you're wondering. Next is the Cold Steel Recon 1, which actually is a little bit bigger than the Knipex. It doesn't completely dwarf it, though, which it often does. So the Knipex is a 16-20-50 SB, is actually a fairly large knife, at least from tip to butt. Next is the O-Knife Nightclaw. This is something where the blade length is actually significantly shorter. Although, I am wondering if you could probably sharpen a pencil on the O-Knife Nightclaw. And finally, the Kershaw Model 2090 Platform. Another non-locking knife, but considerably smaller. Also with a shorter blade length, but with longer cutting edge. Lest you forget to do your nails. So there you have it. The Knipex 16-20-50 SB folding cutter, as it's called. Again, this would make a great pocket knife for just about anyone. It's only $20. Comes in a pretty good steel. It's got an excellent backspring on it, and it's not going to fail anytime soon. I really, really recommend this one, and I would also, I should say, I also really look forward to the coming reviews of this particular knife, as far as who is going to get it, review it, and perhaps do some similar testing and maybe do some other testing related to different types of wire, related to EDC tasks, or indeed knowing RJ. I deliberately left this out because I was considering doing it, but I didn't in the end, which is I was going to compare this to my own collection of electrician knives from the United States. But given that I know that RJ loves electrician knives, I am going to let him show off his collection of electrician knives in comparison to this Knipex. So this has been J.W. Greenbaum. I really hope you enjoyed this video. This will soon go to RJ's Knives and a couple of channels after that. And each one will have their own different take. Each one will be able to bring their own experiences to this knife and to reviewing this knife, which should really be cool, specifically because this is not exactly an everyday carry pocket knife so much as it is something that can function in the role, but something that is designed for an electrician who, or, you know, somebody who just maintains something that happens to have and use a lot of electrical wiring. So I hope you enjoyed this. And this is J.W. Greenbaum signing off and wishing you a great day.